Sir, very happy morning to all. So, we are doing tax invoice. We understood that you may be a supplier of goods, you may be a supplier of services, or you may be both. Or you may be a continuous supplier of goods, or you may be a continuous supplier of services. Or there may be cessation of supply, or you may be supplier of goods which is sale or return basis. We understood as per the GST Act when you are supposed to raise the invoice. If you are supplier of goods, 147 is the shortcut. If you are supplier of services, 256 is the shortcut. And my dear lovable students, sir, you may be a supplier of goods or supplier of what? Services. During the intervening period, you have to revise the what invoice? Tax invoice. As per section 31, subsection 3, clause A. And there is a concept called as what of supply? Bill of consolidated tax invoice as per 31 subsection 3 clause B and bill of supply as per 31 subsection 3 clause C. And we are having, sir, receipt voucher as per 31 subsection 3 clause D, e-fund voucher as per 31 subsection 3 clause E. And FNG is applicable to 9.3 and 9.4. Sir, if the supplier of the 9.3 and 9.4 is unregistered person, and recipient is a registered person, that recipient registered person is the person who are entitled to raise the tax invoice as per 31 subsection 3 clause F. And when you pay the consideration to the supplier of 9394, my dear lovable students, then the person who are paying should raise the payment voucher as per 31 subsection 3 clause G. That's it. Now we understood that who and all is supposed to raise the what invoice? Tax invoice. Okay, fine. What and all should be there in the tax invoice is what? Content of tax invoice. What is that? Content of tax invoice. A tax invoice shall be issued by the registered person containing the following particulars, namely. So when you are raising the tax invoice, these should be there. Number one, name, address and GST IN of the supplier. What is the name of the supplier? A&M classes. Where it is located, that's what address, and what is the GST number. Sir, only a person who was registered will be having the GST number, right, sir? So only a registered person is supposed to issue the tax invoice. Number two, consecutive serial number not exceeding how much character? In one or more multiple series containing alphabet or numericals or special character or hyphen or dash and slash symbolized as dash or slation respectively, or any combination thereof, unique for a what year? Financial year. That means some serial number should be there. Some number should be there, which should be a 16 character, should not exceed how much character? So you can design a number where it consists of 16 character. It may have dash, double dash, sir, or what hyphen, or what symbolized, such as everything. And date of issue, what is the date of the what invoice? Tax invoice. This is the third content you should be having. If recipient is registered person, then name and address and GST IN or UIN of the recipient. So this till now we talked about the supplier details. Now I am coming into the recipient details. If the recipient is a registered person, then name, address and GST number or UIN, which is unique identification number. UIN means unique identification number of the recipient. Assume that the recipient is not a registered person, is a what person? Unregistered person, and value of supply. You have to check whether it is more than 50,000 or less than 50,000. So I am the supplier. First you have to give the supplier details. Once you provide the supplier details, my dear lovable students, next you have to give the recipient details. Next you have to give the... So my dear lovable students, if the recipient is unregistered and the value of supply is, sir, less than, more than 50,000, less than 50,000. If it is more than 50,000, name and address of the what? Recipient, and address of delivery along with the name of the state and its what? Code. This much details you have to provide. What is the name of the recipient? What is the address of the recipient? What is the address of delivery along with which state you are sending, and what is the state code? Uttagrani. Sir, if it is less than 50,000, unregistered recipient may still request the aforesaid details to be recorded in the what invoice. You try your level best to record all the above details in the tax invoice. It is less than 50,000. However, in case involving supply of online money gaming, oh my God, that's what online what gaming? Money gaming, sir, or in cases where any taxable supply is supplied by or through e-commerce operator or by supplier of what services to a recipient who is what registered Irrespective of the value of such supply, tax invoice issued by the registered person shall contain the name of state of the recipient, and name shall be deemed to be addressed on record of the what? Recipient. That means what they are saying is, my dear lovable students, if the recipient may be registered person or unregistered person, if the recipient is a what person? A registered person, then try to give the name, address and GST, IN or UIN of the. If the recipient is an unregistered person, you have to check whether the value of supply is more than 50,000, or if it is more than 50,000, it is material, very important. Then you have to provide name and address of the recipient and address of the delivery and state and the state code. But if it is less than how much? 50,000. Try to collect the same details if possible. Otherwise, leave it. But if the supplier is supply of online what gaming or any taxable service is supplied by or through what commerce operator or supplier of what services, if the recipient is unregistered, this 50,000 value will not be applicable. You should mandatorily provide, sir, value of taxable supplies, tax invoice issued by registered person shall contain the name of the state of the recipient, and the same shall be deemed to be addressed on record of the what? Recipient. So, number one, the first one, we gave the details regarding the supplier details. Number two, we gave the details regarding the recipient details. Now we are going to give the details of the other details. HSN code for what or what? Goods or services. HSN stands for Harmonized System of Nomenclature. Harmonized System of Nomenclature. GST department would have said that if you are dealing in plastic, its code is 2562513. Like that, some number they will be giving. Because we call it as plastic. The other guy maybe call it as some name. So, this name change will be there. So, what GST department is saying that try to have a common name called as Harmonized System of Nomenclature. Tell me, Harmonized System of, what is the HSN code for what or what? Goods or? Then description of the goods or services. What goods you are dealing with. Like, my dear lovable students, whether you are dealing with iron goods, steel goods, plastic goods, what is the description of it, and quantity in case of goods, and unique unit or unique quantity code thereof. How much quantity? 10,000 kg, 5,000 kg. These are the details regarding the what? Goods. And total value of supply of what or what or what? Goods or services or both. Taxable value of supply of goods or service or both, taking into account discount or what? Abatement. If there is any discount or abatement, for example, the full value is 10,000. If you are providing discount 5,000, balance 5,000 will be the what of supply? Value of supply. Are you all really with me? And rate of tax, that is central tax, CGST, SGST, IGST, UTGST, or the what? Cess. Because as per section 33, tax should be specified in the what invoice? Tax invoice. So what tax you are collecting, it shows that whether the supply is a intrastate supply or interstate supply. Then amount of tax charged in respect of what goods or what? Taxable goods or services. Central tax, state tax, integrated tax, union territory tax, or what? Says what is the tax you have charged. The next details, place of supply along with the name of the state in case of supply is in the course of interstate or what? Commerce. They have to mention what is the place of supply. So when you see invoice, this all details should be there. And the address of the delivery, where the same is different from the what of supply? Place of supply. Sometimes place of supply may be Kerala, but you have to deliver to some other place. So if the delivery address is different, this is the delivery address you have to mention. It may be bill to ship transaction also, right, sir? Whether the tax is payable on what charge basis? You have to say in the invoice that this supply is, sir, RCM. So it is covered under 93 or 53 or 94 or 54 or 55 or what 95. So that you have to mention. Signature or the digital signature of the supplier of his authorized representative. That is, you have to put a signature that all the information contained in the invoice are correct. The signature or the digital signature of the supplier or his authorized representative shall not be required in case of issuance of what invoice? So there is a concept called as e-invoice. So we can issue manual invoice and also we can issue what invoice? Electronic invoice in accordance with the provisions of Information Technology Act. So if you are issuing electronic invoice, no need to have what? Signature. Then QR code called as quick response code, having embedded IRN, invoice reference number. What number, man? In it, in case e-invoice has been issued under Rule 48 sub Rule 4, if you are issuing not manual invoice, if you are issuing what? E-invoices, you should have what code? QR code. Declaration as below that e-invoice is not required to be issued under Rule 48 sub Rule 4 in all cases where what is issued other than an e-invoice by the taxpayer having aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year from 17-18 onwards is more than how much crore. So like this, in the invoice, you have to have this statement. What is the no? I or we hereby declare that though our aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from what year? 17-18 is more than the aggregate turnover notified under what? 48 sub Rule 4. We are not required to prepare an invoice in terms of the provisions of said what rule? Actually, sir, there is a concept called as e-invoicing. We'll be discussing that e-invoicing concept very shortly. If the aggregate turnover in the, sir, immediately preceding previous year, that is from 17-18 onwards, if your aggregate turnover exceed 5 crore, then you are supposed to raise the what invoice? E-invoice. But there are certain exceptions are there. Even if your aggregate turnover exceeds how much crore, you are not supposed to raise the what invoice? E-invoices. So we fall under that category. So because of that, we are not supposed to issue the, like that you have to mention in your invoice. However, the central government may notification on the recommendation of the council and subject to such condition restriction as mentioned therein, specify the tax invoice shall have QR code, that is quick response code. You know, my dear lovable students, these are the 19 contents. It should be there in the what invoice? Tax invoice. So we can classify that into set wise. Set number 1, the details about the supplier. Details about the, so okay. Regarding the supplier, what and all contains you will provide. Number 1, name and address and GSTIN of the what? Supplier. Consecutive serial number not exceeding 16 characters and date of issue. That's it, man. And that's it. These are the 3 main details you have to provide regarding the supplier of the goods or service or both. The second set is with regard to the what? Recipient. If the recipient is registered, name, address, GSTIN or UIN of the what? Recipient. If the recipient is unregistered, it is based upon the value of supply. Whether the value of supply is more than 50,000 and less than 50,000. If it is more than 50,000, strict. You have to provide the name and address of the recipient and address of the delivery. Right, sir? If it is less than 50,000, try to get the details. If possible, okay, fine. Otherwise, leave it. But even though the value is less than 50,000, if the supply is what, man? Online money gaming or through e-commerce operator or OIDR services, my dear lovable students, sir, irrespective of the thing, you have to mandatorily mention the address and the state in which you are supplying. Now the third set is with regard to the goods or services or both. Goods or services or both. You know, the first set is with regard to the supplier. Second set is with regard to the recipient. Third set is with regard to the, there is like HSN code of the goods or services, description of the goods or services, quantity of the goods, because quantity of the services will not come. Such concept is not there, right, sir? So quantity of the goods, total value of supply of the goods, sir, taxable value of the supply of goods or services, taking into account after discount, rate of tax, this what. This is the third set, man. These are the matters which you have to say with regard to goods or services. What and all? HSN code of the goods or services, description of the goods or services, quantity in case of goods or services, total value of supply of what or what or what. Goods or services or both. Taxable value of the what? Supply of goods or services or both. Then what of tax? Rate of tax. What of tax? That's what set number 4. Tax related matters you have to mention. What are the tax related matters? Rate of tax, whether it is 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. And the amount of tax charge you have to mention. Once you finalize that, you have to talk about the what of supply, place of supply. Because once you have say that place of supply only, you can collect the CGST, SGST or what? Okay, man. Then the other details. The next set, man. 5th set is other details. The other details in the sense means, sir, what is the signature, place of delivery, all those things, miscellaneous matters, man. There is address of delivery where tax payable is on what charge basis, reverse charge basis, signature or the what signature, digital signature. This is what the other details. Then set number 6, you should have, sir, QR code. That is QR code. And you have to put a declaration that I am not supposed to issue the what invoice? E-invoice. That's what set number 6, QR code and e-invoice details you have to mention. So these are the contents to be given in the what invoice, man? Tax invoice. I'm going to talk about invoice having what code. Which invoice should have QR code? What is a criteria? Should have a QR code. Because we said that government will put a notification. In that notification, they will specify that what and all invoice should have what code? QR code. The central government by notification number 14 bar 2020 dated something as amended by notification number 71 bar 2020 dated something as notified that an invoice issued by a what person? If you are a registered person whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from what? You count from 1718. Why 1718? Because from 1718 only GST comes. Correct, sir? From 1718 financial year 1718 only they have rolled out the GST. From that year, if your aggregate turnover exceeds how much crore? 500 crores. Oh my God. That means in a year, if your aggregate turnover exceeds how much crore? 500 crores. Then your invoice should have what code? This is, sir, person number 1 should have what code? QR code. Other than those referred in Rule 54 sub Rule 2, 54 sub Rule 3, 54 sub Rule 4 and 54 sub Rule 4A. That is service supplier of what services? Notified service. And registered person referred in section 14 of the what act? IGST Act. OIDAR what providers man? Service provider. 2. An unregistered person hereinafter referred to as what invoice? B2C invoice. Because we are having 2 invoices are there, B2B invoice and shall have dynamic quick response code called as QR code. So who should have what code, man? QR code. The question, very important question, MCQ will come in examination. In whose invoice there should be QR code? Sir, you take from financial year 1718. If the aggregate turnover exceeds how much crore? 500 crores. So when they raise the invoice, in their invoice, what code should be there? QR code should be there. Pakka, sir? That too, sir, they should raise invoice to a dash person, unregistered person. Here and after refer to what invoice? B2C invoice. However, where such a registered person makes dynamic QR, quick response code available to the recipient through a what display? Such B2C invoice issued by such registered person containing cross-reference of the payment using a dynamic QR code shall be deemed to have been what code, man? That means, sir, I am a registered person. Sir, I makes a quick response code. Okay. Available to whom? Recipient. Through a what display? Digital display. I have to scan it or like that. Such a B2C invoice issued by such a registered person containing what reference of the payment? Cross reference of the payment using a dynamic quick scan it, make the payment. Then we can say that, sir, that invoice is having what code, man? QR code. Hello, sir. Now, so we understood one thing. Invoice having QR code. Which invoice should have QR code? Sir, if your aggregate turnover from previous year 1718, any of the financial year exceeds how much crore? 500 crore. When you are raising invoice, your invoice should have what code? This is one information we got. Quoting of the HSN number or accounting code. HSN stands for Harmonized System of Nomenclature. Who should, in invoice, who should quote the HSN number? What is the criteria is the question. The board may, on the recommendation of the council by notification, specify number of digits of harmonized system of what clature, nomenclature code for goods or service that a class of registered person shall be required to be mentioned. For example, sometimes this HSN code may be a 14-digit, 16-digit number. All 14-digit, 16-digit number you are not supposed to be mentioned in the invoice. You may have to mention only 4 or 5 digit only. But how much digit you have to mention will be mentioned by government on the recommendation of the class of supply of what or what, for which specified number of digit or harmonized system of nomenclature code shall be required to be mentioned by all the registered what payer, and class of registered person that would not be required to mention the harmonized system of nomenclature code for goods or services. So what they are saying is, the board may, on the recommendation of the council, we will say that how much number has to be mentioned as HSN number, who and all have to mention, who and all are not required to mention. So we will put a notification. They put a notification. Look at here. In this regard, notification number something bar something has amended and notified the following with effect from 1/4/2021. My dear lovable students, they put a notification. They said that if your annual turnover in the preceding financial year, if your annual turnover in the preceding, if your last, not from 1718 and all, in the immediately preceding previous year, if the annual turnover is up to 5 crore, up to how much crore? 5 crore. Number of digit of HSN code is how much digit you should show? 4 digit. Only 4 digit. It may have 16 digit, 18 digit, 12 digit, whatever it may be. But don't mention that much big number and all. You show only, if your turnover is more than 5 crore, then you should show 6 digit. So, if it is up to 5 crore, 4 digit. More than 5 crore, let me ask you a question. More than 5, what is the next number? That's why 6 digit. Less than 5, below 5, what is the number? That's why if it is up to 5 crore, it is 4 digit. Pakka, sir? However, a registered person having aggregate turnover up to how much crore in the previous financial year may not mention how many digit. 4 digit of what code? HSN code in what invoice? Issued by him under the rule in respect of supply made to a dash person. So we are having one exception. What exception is saying that if you are a registered person, aggregate turnover up to how much crore? Generally in the preceding financial year, if your annual turnover does not exceed 5 crore, what is the HSN code required? In the previous year, may not mention how many digit. No need to mention even that 4 digit in tax invoice issued by him under the rules in respect of supply made to a what person? If he is making supply to an unregistered person, no need to mention the HSN code. Fine. So second information also we have studied. These are special cases. Invoice in what cases? Special case. Number 1, sir, the first thing, who is supposed to raise the, you should mention the QR code. Okay, wow. From financial year 17-18, if your aggregate turnover exceed 500 crore, you have to mention the, because in the contents of the what invoice? Tax invoice, there is 17th point is one of the content. One of the content is what response code? Quick response code having embedded IRN number. What is IRN? Invoice reference number in it. In case e-invoice has been issued under Rule 48, Sub-Rule 4. Rule 48, Sub-Rule 4. However, the government may by notification on the what of the council and subject to such condition and restriction as mentioned therein, specify that tax invoice shall have what code? So now question arises, whose tax invoice should have what code? That's what we have studied. From financial year 17-18, my dear lovable students, if your aggregate turnover exceeds 500 crore, your invoice should have a QR code. That's what the central government by notification number something bar something has notified that an invoice issued by a what person? If you are a registered person, invoice has been issued. Whose aggregate turnover in any preceding financial year from 17-18 onwards exceeds how much crore? If your aggregate turnover exceeds 500 crore in any previous year from 17-18, you are supposed to raise have the QR code in the invoice. Okay? But other than, these people will not cover. These people will not cover. Other than those referred in Rule 54, Sub-Rule 2, 3, 4 and what? 4A. Here they are saying that, sir, quick response code e-invoice has to be issued under Rule 48, Sub-Rule 4. Right, sir? But this is not Rule 48. This is what? Rule 54. So we are having exception. Rule 54, Sub-Rule 2, Rule 54, Sub-Rule 3, Rule 54, Sub-Rule 4 and Rule 54. That is service supplier of what services? Certain services if you are supplying, no need to have what code? QR code. And registered person referred in section 14 of the what act? If I am a OIDAR service supplier, that means if I am situated outside India, OIDAR, that is basically oh my god services and what? OIDAR services, no need to have what? QR code. If these people are supplying to a what person? Unregistered person. Herein referred to as what invoice? Shall have what man? Quick NSR dynamic. Pakka, sir? Next one, the second one. Sir, in whose invoice we should have the HSN code? Quoting of the HSN or what code? Accounting. HSN stands for Harmonized System of what nomenclature. Yes, sir. This HSN code, my dear lovable students, sir, if the annual turnover is up to how much crore? 5 crore. How many digit? 4 digit. More than 5 crore, 6 digit. Right, sir? But if your turnover in the immediately preceding previous year does not exceed how much crore? And if you are supplying to a unregistered person, there is no need that you have to mention 4-digit HSN code. Okay, sir. Sir, next one. Next type of invoice. I am making export or SEZ supply. I am making export or SEZ supply is called as ZRS. What RS, man? Zero rated supply. So if I am raising an invoice for export or SEZ supply, how I have to raise the invoice? invoice requirement in case of export or what supply? In case of export of what or what goods or services, invoice shall carry an endorsement. In that invoice, this line should be there. Supply meant for what? Export. Or supply to what unit? Or what developer? For authorized operation on payment of what tax? So there are two options in which you can export. Either by paying IGST or bond or LUT. So this is option number what? 1. And this is option number what? 2. If you adopted option number 1, that is by payment of what tax? Integrated tax. You have to specifically mention in the invoice that supply meant for export or supply to what unit? SEZ unit or what developer? For authorized operation on payment of what tax? Integrated tax. And if you are following the second option, supply meant for export or supply to what unit? Or SEZ developer for what operation? Under what or what? Bond or without payment of what tax? So, two ways in which you can complete the export. Either by payment of IGST or without payment of what? So, this is an option given by the Act. If you are exporting through payment of IGST, you have to mention that I am exporting or I am supplying to SEZ by making payment of what? IGST. If you are supplying, my dear lovable students, without payment of IGST, that is bond or what option? LUT option. You have to mention that in invoice, I am traveling through the bond or LUT option as the what may be. So particulars of export invoice are same as what invoice? Whatever particulars we studied for a normal tax invoice, all the details should be there in the export invoice also, like supplier details, recipient details, goods or services details, like that. However, where the recipient is what registered person and the value of supply is how much or more, instead of the name of state and its code, in case of export invoice, name of the country of destination is to be mentioned. Sir, this is an exception. What is the exception? We studied that if the recipient is an unregistered person and if the value of supply is more than how much? 50,000. We have to mention the state and the state code. But here state concept will not be there because from India we are exporting out of India. So state will not come, country will come. Right, man? And so instead of the state and the state code, my dear lovable students, you have to mention the name of country of destination is to be mentioned. Paka. So this is a second special invoice we have to raise. The first one, first we learned that, sir, who and all have to mention the QR code in their invoice. Number 2, sir, who and all have to mention the HSN code, or it is otherwise called as accounting code. It is based upon turnover in the immediately preceding previous year. When you are, sir, making export or SEZ supply invoice, what should be there in that invoice? The next one, sir, invoice come what of supply. We heard about tax invoice, we heard about bill of supply separately. Now there is a concept called as invoice come what of supply. Sir, where a registered person is supplying taxable as well as what goods? I am supplying both taxable goods, exempted goods, or taxable and exempted services. Sir, in single bill, I am supplying taxable supply and also what? Or both to a dash person. A single invoice come bill of supply may be issued for all such supplies. So what they are saying, you are a registered person, you are supplying taxable as well as exempted goods or services or both to a dash person. A single invoice come what of supply, bill of supply may be issued for all such supplies. The said single invoice come what of supply shall contain the particulars as specified in Rule 46 or Rule 54 as the case may be, and Rule number 49. That means whatever we have studied, the contents of the tax invoice should also be there in the invoice come what of supply. So this is a combination of tax invoice plus what of supply. Generally, if you are supplying taxable goods or services or both, then only you are supposed to raise the tax invoice. When you are dealing with the exempted goods or service or both, or if you are a composition dealer, you are supposed to raise the bill of supply. So in single invoice, if you are dealing with both taxable and exempted, you can issue invoice come what of supply. This may be a 2-mark question in examination. Explain invoice come what of supply, bill of supply. So you should be very clear with the provision where a registered person is supplying what as well as what? Taxable as well as exempted goods or service or both. To a what person? Very important. Not to a registered person. To a, because if it is a registered person, he need to take ITC. So tax invoice has to be separately issued and bill of supply has to be separately issued. You should not mix it. Hello, sir. So to a what person? Unregistered person. A single invoice cum bill of supply may be issued for all such purpose. This we have actually already done at the start, man. Manner of issuing invoice. Rule number 48. What copy, how much copy you need. Invoice shall be prepared in triplicate in case of what of goods. In the following manner. Original copy who will take? Be marked as original for. Duplicate copy be marked as duplicate for. Triplicate copy being marked as triplicate for. So this is how you have to. Supply of goods means you have to make triplicate. Original copy for the recipient, duplicate copy for the transporter, and triplicate copy for the. And serial number of the invoices issued during the month or quarter shall be furnished electronically in form GSTR. Sir, I am not a supplier of goods, sir. I am a supplier of. Don't take triplicate, sir. 2 copy in case of what of services. The invoice shall be prepared in duplicate in case of supply of service in the what manner? Following manner. Original copy being marked as original for. Duplicate copy being marked as duplicate for. This actually we have talked in the start of the chapter itself. Right, sir? So manner of issuing the invoice. If in case of supply of services, duplicate. Original copy for recipient and duplicate copy for what? The serial number of invoices issued during the month of quarter shall be furnished electronically in form GSTR. Pakka, sir. Sir, both serial number has to be updated in the GSTR1, which is what word supply? Outward supply. Serial number to be furnished what? Electronically. The serial number of invoices issued during a tax period shall be furnished electronically through the common portal in form GSTR1. When you are uploading form GSTR1, which is outward supply, which is returns chapter, my dear lovable students, the serial number, that is for this month, sir, from invoice number 28 to invoice number 56, I have issued. Like that, the serial number has to be uploaded in GSTR. Coming to rule 48, sub rule for e-invoicing. Okay, sir. Sir, we have talked about QR code. The next concept is what invoicing. The invoice shall be prepared by such a class of what person? As may be notified by the government on the recommendation of the council by including such particulars contained in form GST INV01 after obtaining, very important, IRN. What is IRN? By uploading information containing thereon on the common goods and services tax electronic portal in such manner and subject to such condition restriction as may be specified in the. What they are trying to say is, sir, if you are a registered person, the registered person which we are saying, we will notify on the recommendation of the council. If you are raising the invoice, the details of the invoice has to be uploaded in GST common portal. And GST common portal will prepare an invoice to you. That invoice is called as what invoicing? E-invoicing. That invoice is called as. But however, the commission through notification may exempt a person or a class of registered person from issue of what invoice for a specified period subject to such condition and restriction as may be specified in the said notification. But the commissioner may put a notification saying that, my dear lovable students, these people, even though they are registered people, these guys are not supposed to issue the. This is the applicability of e-invoice in India now, sir. From applicability date, sir, for us 1st October 2023 onwards, is your aggregate turnover in any financial year from the start of the GST 17-18 exceeds how much crore? 5 crores. This and all old data, man. Initially, they started with 500 crore, then they reduced to 100 crore, then they reduced to 50 crore, then they reduced to 20 crore, then they reduced to how much? 10 crore. These are all irrelevant, don't cut it. Because every notification is changing. Now, for our examination, if your aggregate turnover in any financial year exceed 5 crore, then, my dear lovable students, you are supposed to raise the what invoice. Manual invoice will not be accepted. You are supposed to raise the what invoice. This is a good area for examination, they may test. Invoice other than e-invoice, not regarded as invoice. From 17-18, if your aggregate turnover exceeds how much crore? 5 crore, you are supposed to raise the what invoice? E-invoice. Instead of raising the e-invoice, if you are raising the manual invoice, put it on. Dustbin. Every invoice issued by person to whom above provision apply in any manner other than the manner specified in the said sub-rule shall not be treated as what at all. That means once for you in e-invoice provisions are applicable, you have to mandatorily issue the e-invoice. If you are issuing, sir, manual invoice or e-invoice as per your will and wish, it will not be treated as e-invoice. Non-applicability of certain provision in case of what invoice? Provisions of Rule 48 sub-rule 1 and 2 shall not apply to an invoice prepared in the manner specified in, sir, 48 sub-rule what? 4. That means we studied so many contents, right man? These contents and all will not be applicable for the what invoice? E-invoice. The manner of preparing the E-invoice is something different. I am going to teach you how you have to make the what invoice man? E-invoice. E-invoice is not generation of invoice by what man? What portal? Government portal. We are having government portal. Sir, GST website is there. Correct, sir. E-invoice means it is not the generation of invoice by taxpayer will continue to create their GST invoice, their own accounting or billing or ERP system as per the e-invoice schema. That means you may use Tally. Tally only itself is going to prepare the what invoice? E-invoice. But the format for preparing that e-invoice has been set by the government. Paka? This invoice will then be reported to the IRP. What is IRP? Invoice Registration Portal. On such reporting, IRP will generate a unique IRN, digitally sign it and return the invoice to the what? Supplier. So step number 1. This is step number 1. First you have to prepare a invoice by using your own software. Paka? Step number 2, you have to upload that to the IRP. What is IRP? Invoice Registration Portal. You have to register your invoice. How you are taking registration under the GST Act? The same way you have to register your what? Invoice. Once you register your invoice, that IRP will provide you IRN. What is IRN? Invoice Reference Number. Invoice Reference. Now, step number 3, my dear lovable students. Sir, a GST invoice will be valid only with a valid what RN? IRN. Sir, if you don't have a IRN, it will not be called it as e-invoice. IRN is mandatory. Presently, invoice, credit note and debit note when issued by what person? To registered person, B2B or for purpose of export are covered under what invoice? E-invoice. Yes, sir. Though different documents are covered, for ease of reference and understanding, system is referred as what invoicing. Even though lot of names are there, my dear lovable students, we will call this as what invoicing man? E-invoicing. So first of all, sir, who is supposed to raise the e-invoice man? Sir, if your aggregate turnover in any of the financial year from 17-18 exceeds how much crore? 5 crore, you are supposed to do the e-invoice. E-invoice means the GST portal will not make the e-invoice. You yourself has to first create the invoice. Then you have to upload to the IRP, which is Invoice Registration Portal. Then they will provide you a IRN, which is Invoice Reference Number. Hello, sir. Once you get the what RN? IRN, sir, it will be digitally signed and sent to us. If IRN is there, then only it will be treated as what invoice. Sir, the act is using different words, but here onwards we will be calling only what invoicing. What are the advantages of what invoicing? Okay, sir. What is the difference between manual invoice and e-invoice? What is the advantage? Auto reporting of invoices into what return? A GST return. First you have to make the invoice, upload in the IRP. That will automatically reflect in the what return? GST return. Okay, wow. And auto generation of what bill? E-way bill, wherever required, thus resulting in a substantial reduction in transitional errors. Otherwise, no. When you are manually uploading invoice, you are committing lot of mistakes, my dear lovable students. So, the invoice is validated by the common portal. So, that automatically communicate to the returns department like GSTR1. So, and e-way bill also. So, you can reduce the mistake. This is what advantage number 1. Coming to advantage number 2, it will facilitate standardization and interoperability, leading to reduction of dispute among what parties? Transacting parties. Improve payment cycle, reduction of processing costs, and thereby greatly improving overall business efficiency. That means it will become standard. There will not be any error in the what? Invoice. And sir, interoperability in the sense means I can raise the invoice, the recipient can quickly get the invoice, automatically it will be uploaded in the return cycle, and I can easily track it, improve the payment cycle. Overall, my business will grow like anything. The third one, my dear lovable students, it will enable the system level matching of ITC and output tax, thereby reducing the VAT evasion. For government, this is a big tool because you can't evade the tax. Because once the e-invoice comes out, mandatorily you have to pay the output tax collected. And only that much output tax can be taken as ITC by the recipient. This is the advantage number 3. And advantage number 4, man, it will eliminate the fake invoices as the tax authority will have access to data in what time? You can't create fake invoice because the invoice will be authorized or given by the Government only. First you are preparing the invoice, it will be uploaded to the government. So class of person notified to mandatorily issue what invoices. If you are these four people, my dear lovable students, you have to mandatorily require to what? Issue the what invoice. This is person number one, person number one. Sir, a registered person, if you are a registered person, except specified class of person, if any exception has been given, that's okay, whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year from which year onwards exceeds how much crore, has been notified as a class of person who shall prepare what invoice in case of what to what supply. B2B supply, B2B supply, B2B supply. B2B means business to business, right man? Registered person to registered person. Supply of goods or service or both to a registered person or for what? Export. So only this guy is mandatorily. So it is based upon your aggregate turnover. If your aggregate turnover exceeds how much crore? 5 crore. You are supposed to mandatorily issue what invoice? Thus, presently, such notified persons are not required or allowed to report B2C invoices. So now, B2C invoices are not need to be issued what invoice? E-invoice. Only what to what invoice? Because B2C people will not take credit, right man? So they are saying that if your aggregate turnover from previous year 17-18 exceeds 5 crore, and if you are making supply to a B2B, then mandatorily you have to issue invoice. So this is an exception, man. This is an exception in the sense means, my dear lovable students, your aggregate turnover exceeds how much? 5 crore, but you are supplying to a B2C instead of what? B2B. You are not supposed to raise the further e-invoice also not applicable to invoice issued by the what? ISD. If you are supplying to a ISD, input service distributor, no need to issue the what invoice. If the invoice issued by the notified person is in respect of supply made by him, the tax on which is payable under what charge? E-invoices is applicable. That means, sir, this is again applicability. Sir, I am a GTA. I am providing service to some other person. Actually, tax is liable to be paid by the what commerce operator? What person? The 7 specified person who are located in taxable territory. Still the GTA has to issue the what invoice? E-invoice. So even though you are not liable to pay tax, even though the tax liability is not on FCM, even though the tax liability is on RCM, e-invoice provisions will be, even for RCM also, e-invoice provisions will be applicable. Comfortable, sir? On the other hand, where the specified category of supplies are received by notified person from what person? Attracting what charge? Under 9.4 or through import of services, invoice does not arise, not applicable. Invoice is also not applicable for what of goods. But sir, if an unregistered person is supplying to a registered person where the provisions of 9.4, you are a registered person, you are a registered person, that is builder. Okay, you have to purchase at least 80% from the what person? Registered person. If it is less, RCM under 9.4 will be applicable. So, for RCM under what 393, e-invoice provisions will be applicable. Whereas, my dear lovable students, RCM under what 4? 9.4, e-invoice provisions will not be applicable. So don't say that for all RCM, e-invoice will be applicable. I will give you an example, the applicability. This will be tested for 2 to 3 mark in examination. For whom e-invoice? Sir, a taxpayer, say a firm of advocate. We all know that legal services are RCM, right sir? Having aggregate turnover in a financial year or more than how much crore? Is supplying service to a company who will be discharging tax liability as a recipient under what charge mechanism? Is this 9.3 or 9.4? 9.3. For 9.3, e-invoice provisions will be applicable. Such invoice have to be reported by the said taxpayer. It is a notified person to what? IRP. Comfortable, sir. So for 9.3 cases, sir, e-invoice provisions will be applicable. Whereas for 9.4 cases, e-invoice provisions will not be. But these are exemption from e-invoicing. Very important, man. This much people, 6 people are not, sir, even though your aggregate turnover exceeds how much crore? Don't raise what invoice? Maybe tested in MCQ. Following entities are exempt from mandatory requirement of e-invoicing. Number 1, Special Economic Zone, SEZ. SEZ unit. It is important note here that only SEZ unit and not SEZ developer are exempt from issuing what invoice. Thus, SEZ developer whose turnover exceeds how much crore in preceding financial year from 17-18 onwards are mandatorily required to issue what invoice. Further, in case of supply made by notified person to SEZ unit, e-invoice need to be issued. If you are what unit? SEZ unit, not SEZ developer. If you are SEZ unit, this is exception number 1. This guy is not supposed to raise the what invoice. Number two, insurer or what company? Banking company or financial institution, sir, including what? This is exception number two. This guy is not supposed to raise the what invoice. GTA, supplying service in relation to transportation of goods by road in a what carriage? GTA, sir, even though for 9.3 we just now said that supplier is supposed to raise the what invoice? E-invoice, right, sir? Whereas in case of GTA, they are not supposed to raise the what invoice? E-invoice. This is exception number 3. Supplier of passenger transportation services, Ola, Uber, no need to raise the supplier. Person supplying service by way of admission to exhibition of what film? Cinematographic film in multiplex screens like film theaters is not liable to issue the e-invoice. They are exemption from e-invoicing. And government department or what authority? Thus, above mentioned entity are not required to issue what invoice, even if their turnover exceeds how much crore? In the preceding financial year from 17-18 onwards. Comfortable, sir. We'll give you an example, man. XYZ Private Limited as a what unit and regular DTA unit, both having what pan? Then you have to take the aggregate turnover. The aggregate total turnover of XYZ Private Limited is more than how much crore? Considering both GSTIN, however, the turnover of DTA unit is below how much crore for the financial year 22? In this scenario, a ZZ unit is exempt from what invoicing? Because it is one of the exception. Right, sir? However, e-invoicing will be applicable to what unit? Because the aggregate turnover of the legal entity in this case is more than how much crore? Eligibility is based on aggregate turnover on the what pan. Because if your aggregate turnover exceed, you are supposed to raise the what invoice. So, because of the exception covered, SEZ is exempted. They are not supposed to raise the what invoice. But the DTA will not escape from that. Sir, DTA has to mandatorily raise the what invoice. How to generate the e-invoice, sir? What are the steps? Okay, sir. I understood that for whom e-invoicing provisions will be applicable. How to generate it practically? The taxpayer first prepare and generate his invoice using his or own ERP accounting billing system. This is what step number? Using your Tally or SAP or whatever software you are using, you itself has to first prepare the invoice. Step number 2. Invoice must confirm the what schema. That is standard notified format and must have what parameter? Mandatory parameters. That is e-invoice schema means, sir, first of all, you have to prepare the invoice and you have to upload to the ERP. But the invoice what you are preparing should not be your will and wish. We already gave a schema. The format in which you have to prepare the, in that format only you are supposed to prepare. The details of this invoice are uploaded or reported by taxpayer to the IRP. What is IRP? This is what step number 2 is all about. First, you have to prepare the invoice by your own. Then you have to upload to the IRP. This way, taxpayer registers the supply transaction on what? IRP. On uploading, IRP return the invoice with a unique what? IRN. After digitally sign the e-invoice and adding a what code. This is what step number 3. Once you upload the what? E-invoicing, my dear lovable students, sir, in a IRP, that IRP will return back to you the e-invoice after adding the digital signature and also the what code? QR code. That means after adding the IRN. What is IRN? Then step number 4, sir, then the supplier share the e-invoice with the recipient along with the what code. So it's a 4-step approach. Step number 1, first you have to prepare the e-invoice by using your own software. Then you have to upload that in the IRP, which is invoice registration portal. Then what they will do, no, they will generate IRN along with the what code? QR code, and that invoice will be shared to you. You can share it with your recipient. Cancellation or amendment of reported invoice. Sir, where needed, the seller can cancel IRN for an e-invoice already reported by reporting it on IRN within the what time? We will tell you particular time. For example, sir, 24 hours. Sir, like that we will say in the notification. Within that time, after reporting to the, sir, registration portal, IRP, you can cancel that invoice. We don't have any problem. Amendment of invoice already uploaded on IRP will be done only on what portal? Amendment of invoice is not possible through IRP. Sir, but you can amend it by using the GST common portal. So what in this chapter, what mainly we are talking about is what are the contents of the what invoice, man? Tax invoice. Basically, generally, this is a summary of this chapter, man. If you are having tax invoice, sir, basically supplier details should be there. Then recipient details should be there. Then the details of the goods or service or both should be there. Then tax details should be there. Then other common details should be there. And QR code and applicability of the e-invoice should be there. In that, we have studied QR code and applicability of e-invoice. That's what invoice having what code? QR code. It is a 500 crore matter from financial year 17-18 onwards. If your aggregate turnover exceeds 500 crore in any of the financial year, your invoice should have QR code. Otherwise, there is no need to have QR code. Now, the next item in the tax invoice is the HSNR accounting code. My dear lovable students, whose invoice should have HSNR accounting code means, sir, aggregate turnover is up to 5 crore means in the immediately preceding previous year means 4-digit number should be there. More than 5 crore means 6-digit number should be there. Sir, if you are supplying to export or what unit, SEZ supply, sir, you are having two options. Either pay payment of IGST, you can export, or without payment of IGST. If it is by payment of IGST, you should mention that I am exporting or supplying to SEZ using IGST, or you have to mention that I am opting bond or LUT option. There is a common concept called as invoice cum bill of supply. If you are a registered person supplying both taxable and exempted to a what person? Unregistered person, my dear lovable students, you have to issue the invoice cum bill of supply. Sir, how to manner the issue? It based upon whether you are supplier of goods or supplier of services. If you are supplier of goods, then triplicate. If you are supplier of services, then duplicate. And one copy to the respective person. Are you comfortable? And the serial number should be updated in the GSTR1, which is outward supply. Now we are going to talk in detail about the e-invoicing. E-invoicing, sir, to whom it is applicable? Sir, from financial year 17-18 onwards, if any of the financial year, if your aggregate turnover exceed 5 crore, you are supposed to do the e-invoicing. Sir, it's a 4-step approach, man. E-invoicing is a 4-step approach, basically. You have to prepare the invoice by using your own software. You have to report it to IRP. Then they will generate IRN. They will return back to you, if needed, with the QR code. Then you have to share that with your recipient. Right, sir? There are 4 advantages for e-invoicing, sir. But certain class of people are no need to do it. But certain people have to mandatorily do it. Sir, if your aggregate turnover in the any of the preceding previous year exceeds 5 crore, and if you are doing B2B supply, that is a very important point, man, then you are mandatorily liable to do invoicing. If it is, sir, B2C, no need it. For 9.3, sir, service also, invoicing will be applicable. For 9.4 services, invoice will not be applicable. But these guys on face, these 6 people are not required. Number 1, SEZ unit, insurer or banking company or financial institution, GTA supplying services, supplier of passenger transportation services, person supplying service by admission to cinematographic film, and government department or local authority. Even though their turnover exceed 5 crore, no need to raise the e-invoice. There are 4-step approach. It's a 4-step approach of raising the invoices. That's it. We can say that we are through with the brilliant chapter called as tax invoice, debit note, and the format of the tax invoice. Immediately after this, my dear lovable students, we'll be talking about time of supply of goods, time of supply of services, 12, 13, and 14. What we have completed now is 31, 31A, 32, 33, and 34, which is tax invoice, debit note, and comfortable, sir.